Welcome to eDiscovery Leaders Live, where I get a chance to chat with luminaries in eDiscovery and related areas. This broadcast is sponsored by Reveal-Brainspace, the industry's leading AI eDiscovery platform. Don't forget to subscribe to watch me, George Socha, weekly with leaders in eDiscovery. Thank you for tuning in. Welcome to eDiscovery Leaders Live, hosted by ACEDS and sponsored by Reveal. I am George Socha, Senior Vice President of Brand Awareness at Reveal. Each week, I host an episode of eDiscovery Leaders Live where I get the chance to chat with luminaries in eDiscovery and related areas. Past episodes are available on the Reveal website. Go to revealdata.com, select resources, then select eDiscovery Leaders Live. Our guest this week is Diane Diaz. Diane is an eDiscovery manager at McDonald's Corporation. She has over 20 years of experience in the legal field, starting as a legal secretary, working through the ranks of paralegal, and most recently, realigning her paralegal responsibilities into her current eDiscovery manager role. In that role, she supports the legal department and serves the commercial litigation practice group, which handles, among other things, class action lawsuits, governmental inquiries, franchise disputes, real estate matters, and third-party subpoenas. On any given day, she can be managing over 60 matters that include issuing legal holds, interviewing custodians, identifying and collecting data, sorting through boxes located in off-site solutions. Yep, I guess you still have boxes, and on. Diane's a strategic thinker in this process, ensuring alignment amongst commercial, labor, and tort litigation teams, developing protocols to keep consistent and repeatable processes in place when collecting data. I could go on. I'm going to add one little bit, and we'll see why later on, which is that in her spare time, Diana enjoys taking HIT classes. I had to look that up. That's some sort of intensive activity class. She can explain that if you want. Walking her dog, Kendall. She's married to her husband, Ed, and they have 2 daughters. So Diane, welcome.
Hi, thanks so much for having me.
Glad to have you here. I'd like for you to start in our discussion today with the path you've followed that took you ultimately to McDonald's.
Sure. So my interest in legal started when I was a kid, with going to work with my grandma. She was a legal secretary. So she had to work on the weekends on occasion. And so my sister and I would switch off, and she would bring us into the law office. And I just thought that was the coolest thing. You know, I was mostly intrigued by all the supplies, and there was an actual typewriter. So it was I just thought it was a cool thing. So I thought, you know, as my college career progressed and whatnot, I ended up landing a job in a corporate legal department and as a legal secretary, and just kind of loved it and loved more the corporate side of the house. I did spend a few years at a small boutique law firm, supporting one of their litigators there. But in a small law firm, you just kind of end up doing way more than just working on the litigation itself. I was more of the managing the office type thing. So from there, my sister actually worked for McDonald's Corporation. She was over on the U.S. side, and I stumbled upon an opening here at McDonald's and threw my hat in the ring and haven't looked back.
Okay. Well, once you got to McDonald's, what have you done there?
Well, it's just been a progress of starting off with just the legal hold, right? I mean, I came in not really knowing anything about a legal hold, let alone what a legal hold was. And we were all very paper centric. So literally when you had like interoffice mail, like we did the legal hold, we printed it, and we sent it via interoffice mail. And from there, we sort of just escalated into when the rules changed, when the federal rules of civil procedure, that's a mouthful, changed in 2006. We had to up our ante a little bit, if you will, from an eDiscovery perspective. So we really started working closely with our IT team from a collection standpoint, and then it just the eDiscovery process evolved, and I learned all about metadata, and now I'm knee deep. I'm knee deep in the spectrum.
So you had to learn a lot of new things. There wasn't a textbook to go to, a course to go to. Where did you learn them?
It was all on the job, right? I mean, it found me, and you had no choice but to keep up with it. So as we kept updating our legal hold notice and sort of creating our data map, if you will, like where are these repositories? It's new. It was very paper centric back 15, 18 years ago, right? But then as email started to explode and all of these new collaborative tools came on board, it just kind of found me, right? And I was that person who really helped sort of put together those protocols, those consistent and repeatable processes, right? That says, okay, here's what this is. We got to get on the same page, everybody on our team, and how we issue the legal holds, how we're going to actually collect, where we're going to go, what are our main repositories, who are we working with? So that's how that evolved.
How did you come to be that person who did that?
I like it.
It wasn't a question of everyone else stepped one step back faster than you. It wasn't you tried to hide in a corner, but they found you. You chose to do this.
You know what I did? We had one lawyer who sort of wore that eDiscovery lawyer hat, and we were in a team meeting one day, and she's like talking about email and how we're going to collect email, because it used to be, forward me your emails, and I would print, let the lawyers review, right? And she's talking about this process by which it was going to automate all of that, and we would be having to do this. And so to your point, George, you're right. I was that person. I was like, it sounds to me like what that process is going to do is change my entire job. I said, I deserve a seat at the table. And she's like, come on in. And so from there, I never turned back. So you need someone to sort of lead that process and be willing to ask the questions. And I just jumped in with both feet.
How much of that process has been sort of out front and for at least everyone in the corporation, if not everyone in the world, to see? How much of it has been all behind the scenes? How much in between?
Well, I think at the end of the day, we all probably follow a similar. I see we all, again, this is only my opinion. Right. From a corporate standpoint, we all probably follow that same path. You issue your hold notice for preservation purposes, and then you're identifying where your processes are, right? So, but it's nothing that, obviously we share publicly. So,
you follow fairly standard processes, right? What you're doing delivers value, though. No?
Yeah, I think so. I mean, absolutely. Like we're educating our business. Like here's what the issue is, whether it's a subpoena or it's a litigation or whatever. And sometimes that's a little easier said than done. Because the business doesn't know. They're running the show. They should be doing what they're doing. So there is a lot of education from that standpoint, and helping them understand what their obligations are when they receive this notice from legal, right? It's kind of a thorn in their side.
Yeah, I have yet to encounter the company that says, dealing with eDiscovery, that's our first and foremost objective. That stuff we sell to make money, to make the shareholders happy, not so important. It's eDiscovery that matters.
Yeah, no, that's not. Yeah, no, we're behind the scenes, total back office.
Yeah. So, where would you like to see in-house eDiscovery go next? whether it's your team or other teams?
I think we have a niche, right? We have a niche, and it's I'm on the commercial litigation team, and there's 3 eDiscovery managers, and we generally do the same things. I take on a lot of project work, and then you have your actual legal work, your collection, and all of that stuff. And then you've got other teams. We have a tort litigation team. They're separate in and of themselves. They're doing their own thing, but we got a labor litigation team, and maybe we have an investigations team, a compliance team. I really think it's more of a service that we could provide, right? And ensuring it's all about the data. We tend to have some data in our house, right? But making sure that we know where all of that is. It's going to help all of us if we align on how we're collecting, where we're putting it, right? So I almost think that from my perspective, where I would like to see, again, this is just me, if I had a wand, I just sort of like controlling that process, right? Just so we're all on that same page, So if I say, okay, I need to know where Susie Smith's data is and who's collected and when they've collected and where it is, I can be like, bloop, oh, that team collected from this date, we have this, and this. I just think that would make, in my opinion, the most sense.
Yep. Hands-on, tight control.
Yeah.
A paralegal's dream, right?
Yeah, indeed.
Yeah. Switching gears a little bit, you've grown up in this position. You've grown this position within McDonald's. It's been a career development for you. Let's talk about career development. Wherever you want to start with that discussion, whether it's titles or whatever it might be.
I think it's key. I was recently listening to a webinar that you were on last week about paralegals, right? And it's just so key. And again, this is my opinion, and maybe others will completely disagree. But you have a title as a paralegal, and that's great. It has served me well, and it really helped me because I was junior. I was young. I didn't know, like I said, what a legal hold was. But the more you grow into this specific litigation space, like I said, eDiscovery found me. So I feel like I'm not just taking directions from a lawyer and I'm issuing my legal hold and then waiting for the lawyer to say, okay, now go do this. Now go do this. It's really that whole project management. And it's not just about the legal hold and the collection and the processing of all of that. Now you got the projects that come out of what you learn by talking to your business, because inevitably you have these fantastic collaboration tools that Microsoft or whoever puts out. And the business is like, it doesn't really work for me. I went over here and I got this. So now they got this thing. So now we got to spin up a project because I got to figure out what that tool is. What does the data reside there? How do I collect it? Can I preserve it? Can I turn off retention? So inevitably you've got those projects that are going, or data disposition projects that are going. It's just, to me, like that's how I started to look at my career. And during the pandemic, it was one of those things. It's sort of, that was one good thing that I think that came out of the pandemic, at least for me. So I really sort of listening to all of these webinars, and I'm like, wow, I do that, and she's a legal director, or this person is in legal ops and they do this and they do this. So I literally, I always hung that, the EDRM. I love the EDRM model. I love that. It's pretty. So I had it on my wall, and I'm like, man, so I put that in front of me and sort of just put pen to paper and just started from left to right. I'm like, okay, information governance, what do I do? And literally I came up with like pages. I'm like, look at me. And then you sort of kind of look, I guess I never really thought I was focused on a title, but I guess I was focused on a title. And it is a little about that money. Like you're in a paralegal bucket, and I'm going to make this amount of money, right? So, but when you look at all of these others, I'm like, man, I'm really more in that lit support role, and you look at the surveys that come out, the salary surveys, I'm like, man, I think that we could realign this and it would really fit better with what I do and maybe give me a little bump. So I did it. It took me a while and I had to sell it. Like leadership has to buy in, right? But I got buy-in from my boss. She was a great advocate, and she helped me sort of lead the charge and so now I went from a senior paralegal up to an eDiscovery manager.
For others who want to try to pursue that same path, what sort of lessons learned and suggestions would you have for those folks?
I would say you have to do your research, right? Find good, solid examples of what you want. What do you want out of the role, right? I talked to as many people who would talk to me from other corporations, just about what they did in their role. And some were, just I don't want to say simply, but paralegals did it, and they were just doing everything that I was doing, but I was just trying to get myself elevated a little bit. So, and what I did learn was find more examples, right? So we're in that eDiscovery manager space, but quite honestly, I think that there's more room for realignment on what we can do just to create some more efficiencies, at least amongst our team in each of the duties that we have.
So having gone through that exercise once now and given yourself a bump up in title, in pay, do you envision trying to do something similar in the future? Another realignment?
I do. I think it just makes sense. But I need to find more people to benchmark with, right? I need to find another legal team that's similarly situated and how do I grow it, right? How do we grow it and what does that look like?
So let's engage in a little mock exercise here, if you will. So you've got to find another legal team like that. How would you go about trying to locate a team like that?
Well, we work closely with the records and information management team. They do a ton of benchmarking. So I've tapped her, and of the corporations that I have reached out to, I'll probably reach back out to them again to have this particular dialogue just to see what's on their radar. Are they going to, does it make sense? What have they done? That's in my next steps.
When reaching out to corporations like that, did you go through your address book? Did you try to figure out organizations to go to where you might be able to get lists of names? Did you just scour speakers from webinars? What did you do?
Mostly scour speakers from webinars, right? Too. But the other thing is LinkedIn. I try to utilize LinkedIn as much as I can, just to see. I'm connected with a lot of people. I don't talk to everybody, so I kind of go through there, or I will go through there, just to kind of see who am I connected to, and who else might be willing to have a conversation.
I would imagine, although I don't know, that part of what has helped you along through the years and part of what has given you an opportunity to reach out to others might be involvement in various industry associations or organizations. Am I barking up the right tree there?
No, yeah, you're absolutely right. Yeah, and leaning on my vendors, right? Yeah.
So let's do both parts. First, the organizations, then we'll talk about leaning on the vendors. What organizations have been useful, or would you recommend people to take a look at?
Well, two that come to my mind is the EDRM and ACEDS, right? Those are my go-to from a webinar perspective. It's where I get a lot of great information, and I've in the past been involved in the. I am involved in the Women in eDiscovery. That's another really, really good one. Met a lot of great people from the Chicago chapter. And I also, tap into other women in eDiscovery chapters, which I find to be very helpful as well. And then the Illinois Paralegal Association.
Each of those is a somewhat different organization. What are the, what are sort of the top benefits for you from each of those organizations? We'll start with EDRM and go down the list.
The top benefits from each of the organizations?
Yeah, in terms of helping you advance your career, in terms of more broadly than what might help others advance their careers.
Well, I don't know. I don't know if they're going to help me advance my career. Just knowledge wise, just having a deeper bench of others in the industry, just to talk to them. What are they doing? That I think is extraordinarily.
So as a way of hearing what others have to say, or reading what they've written, or whatever, and then as a mechanism for gaining access to others, finding and gaining access to others. So is ACEDS pretty much the same thing or different?
It's both, right? I mean, so there's the CEDS exam. I recently, admittedly, last week sat for the CEDS exam. Whoo, got through that. That was
you got through it and passed.
I passed it.
Congratulations.
Oh my God, how stressful. Wow. But I did it.
I only sat for it, I forget, 2 or 3 years ago. I forget whether it was right before, or I think it was during the pandemic. I'm not sure, but I kept thinking, what if I fail? What if I fail?
Yeah.
Oh no.
Yeah. I still have sweaty palms thinking like, how. So I didn't tell anybody. I kept that my own little secret. But that was an intense exam. I'm glad I did it. I've been thinking about it for years. But it was my own insecurities that kept me from kind of pursuing it.
So your insecurities kept you from pursuing, but at some point you did pursue it. What was the thing that finally pushed you over the edge, so to speak?
Funny story. So last year in 2021, I finished my undergraduate degree. I didn't have it, so
Well, congratulations.
Thanks. So that was a pretty big deal. And I spent the last 2 years studying, and I really powered through. And so in November, I got my degree. And then lo and behold, I had answered some survey through ACEDS, I believe. It's an eDiscovery survey. And I think it was Xtero that must have sponsored the survey. And I didn't know that I was putting my name in a hat to be drawn to win a scholarship for the ACEDS exam. And sure enough, like the very next week, they're like, congratulations, you've won this scholarship. I'm like, oh, I'm not ready. I just didn't want to study anymore.
Right. Not after that.
Yeah. So thank God I had a year to take it. And then I thought, this was an opportunity that I had to seize. So I did it, and thank God I got it.
There you go. So that's EDRM, ACEDS, WE.
Oh, Women in eDiscovery. It's one of those things that kind of puts me out of my comfort zone a little bit, because when we can meet live, you talk to others that are locally from your area, and get to really sort of benchmark with them, and then hopefully become more collaborative, where you can reach out to them. I can think of a couple law firms that I really tap just personally, just to run some things by them. So.
And then finally, I think the last on the list was the Paralegal Association.
Yeah. So I've been involved with the Illinois Paralegal Association in the past, and been asked to do, sit on have a couple of speaking engagements. So that too is another development opportunity for me. I don't really dig this speaking thing, but it's one of those things where I've always said, man, my head is down and I'm working day in, day out. But if I don't start to really talk about it, I'm not really doing anything for my own self. So I think it's really given me an opportunity, again, to meet other people and to really start to really tell people what I do.
I encourage you to keep doing that. It's kind of like teaching. There's no better way to learn a topic than to teach it. Having to figure out what you're going to say succinctly in front of an audience in a way that makes it understandable and meaningful, that's going to help cement things for you too. At least it does for me. In the minutes that are left, I'd like to turn to one last topic, which I previewed a little bit in the introduction, which is for you, the importance of family in all of this.
Indeed. My husband is my rock, and he's my number one fan and supporter. And then also I have 2 daughters who I want to make sure I give them a good role model, right? To be strong. I want them to have a voice. I never want them to feel like they have to just sit back and just do what anybody tells them. I pride myself on being a candid person. If you don't want an opinion, don't ask me, because I'm going to give you an opinion, because I don't want to be that nodding head in the room. And to my daughters too, I want them to hopefully describe me as a strong woman, and I don't hesitate to ask and get what I want, right? Like, so I couldn't do this without a strong support system.
Many don't have that strong support system, even with spouses and children. Any words of wisdom on that front? Anything people can do, you think, that helps ease that path?
I would say just find a friend. I work outside of my family. I mean, you come in, well, it used to be 5 days a week, but you come into the office, I've got a colleague who I call her my right arm, and she is now my friend, and I don't hand that title out too freely, right? And she's just a sounding board for me, and she's the one that just kind of pushes me over just to say, get it done, just do it, you can do it, you're smart enough, you can do it, because you just ask and find that one person that you can trust.
I think even one person you can trust is a lot, isn't it?
Yeah, it is. I think. Yeah.
Well, any final words of wisdom here before we sign off?
Nope, I don't think. I think I've told you what I can. Okay. Contact me if you want to talk further.
Great. Well, thank you very much, Diane. Diane, and remind me the proper pronunciation of your last name.
Diaz.
Diaz. Yes. I butcher so many last names. I feel terrible about it, and then I go ahead and butcher them again. My only solace is that people get my name wrong all the time as well. Anyway, Diane is the Discovery Manager, Commercial Litigation Practice Group at McDonald's. I'm George Socha. This has been eDiscovery Leaders Live, hosted by ACEDS and sponsored by Reveal. Diane, thank you so much for joining us this week.
Thank you.